Start streaming. Okay. Your event is starting. What is up, guys? It is Sunday, the 24th of December, 2017. This is the last episode of the year. Apart from next week, where we'll have a highlight show. Tomorrow is Christmas, and this is the Snappy-Tech Podcast. We have with us today the amazing, the ever-consistent Paul Stubbington. Say hello, Paul.
No. Is it not Paul Claus? I mean, I've got the hat for it.
Oh,
I don't use reindeers, though. I use suicidal pandas.
That poor panda.
Yeah. He's got his own Twitch account now, though.
He does, yeah.
Killer alcoholic panda.
Don't follow it. Just a heads up, I am very sniffly today. So if you're listening to this and you're like, what, who keeps breathing? That's me. You'll probably hear me sneezing away from the microphone where possible. But yeah,
I'm very burpy, actually. Because
this makes for a great listening experience.
The remains of, I don't know whether it's stomach bug, food poisoning, or whatever. From before I was feeling really, really bad till now, all I've been doing is burping and bringing up wind. It's really like awkward and weird and.
What a time to be alive. Now,
how Christmassy
indeed. So Paul, I feel like we can't do this week's podcast without jumping into the biggest story first, right? I feel like we'd be doing a disservice to all of our listeners if we didn't start by talking about the Apple controversy this week.
Oh, I thought the big story is that I'm wearing a Christmas hat. I mean,
well, yeah, that's
look
the
how
big
fabulous and stuff.
That's the big podcast news. And oh my, no, just I have a Christmas hat.
It's coincidental that this isn't even my one. It's just a one that we used to have, and coincidentally it just ended up in my room. Then I suddenly realised it was there and decided to put it on.
We have a Christmas hat in our house that lights up, and I'm like, that is a bit much. That is.
We used to have one that
no one wants.
We used to have one that lit up, like there used to be like a button round here, and the top lit up. And I'm not sure if we even had one that used to play a tune.
No,
I don't know why we had these.
Horrible.
Like none of us ever wore them for more than a gimmicky thing. Right now.
That's the thing with Christmas hats. No one wears them more than like twice a year, and then
unless you're like a Santa, a immortal or something.
Yeah, but they don't even have the gimmicky ones. Because those people just have the normal ones.
Yeah, exactly normal ones. We're not normal. These are really, really annoying once it goes into your face, but it's really fun to. I'm doing it through the camera to make it even more of a challenge.
This is one of those things where, I try to make the video version of a podcast slightly better, but not so that you can't just listen along. Like, I want you to be able to listen to the audio version if you want, but the joy on Paul's face as he's flicking the ball into his face is just hilarious, and you have to watch it to understand what the hell is going on right now. So if you're on the audio version, I highly suggest you hop over to the video version real quick, look at Paul's dopey face, and then go back to the audio version. I'm enjoying this too much. Yeah. So let's talk Apple. Apple this week admitted to what we all kind of knew.
Santa Claus not being real.
Nope, that's not it. That's true. Santa Claus isn't real. But that's not it. Damn it, Paul. They admitted that they're slowing down people's phones.
Which is just something we've thought for years.
Yeah, it's something we've thought for years. We had no proof of it. It seemed really coincidental that every time there was a keynote, like a month later, all the 2-year-old phones started running really badly. However, it is now confirmed. So Apple confirmed that it implemented power management features. I love how they sort of tried to spin it as a positive. These power management features are designed to prevent unexpected shutdowns as the battery in the device starts to degrade, and this admission has now led to a class action lawsuit with people suing Apple, which, let's talk about what they did first. So what they did is as the device got older, the battery degrades, and as the battery degrades, they bring down the maximum clock speed of the CPU or of the SoC, I should say. Apple's argument for this was that the device, the battery as it got older, would be less able to provide the peak charge that the device would need, right? Because it would need a burst of energy as you go to do a benchmark or whatever, or as you go to play a game, and a worn battery wouldn't be able to provide that, and would therefore mean that the device would shut down. So Apple's response, instead of making better batteries, would be to instead just throttle your device. What's your opinion on this, Paul? I bet you loved that discovery.
Well, the thing is, Apple admitted to doing this.
Yep.
However, they have only admitted to doing it with, I think, the 6S, and now the 7 once the iOS 11 came out.
Yep.
Coincidentally, as you say, phones for years from Apple have coincidentally suddenly slowed down a month after the release of other phones. So, but yes, I'm slightly loving it right now because it's made them come out and actually admit that they are slowing down phones. But their excuse, there is an element of validity to it. I would more expect they're slowing down phones because as the battery degrades, the battery life goes from terrible to you turn it on at 100% and it's down to 0% within 5 rather than 10 minutes.
What I will say, actually, to be fair to Apple, is that their standby battery time is the best in the business. But
their users use their phones way too much, so
yeah, it's the usable time, which is what I'll call it, I guess. It's so low because the batteries are so small in capacity relative to the competition.
Yeah, comes in very useful for me, their standby time though, because I leave my iPad on 24/7, but I only use it a few times a week. But it always has battery, basically. But yeah, it's their approach to it to admit they're doing something is good. However, I'm sure there is something more to it. There must be.
Yeah, I think this is just the one thing they could get caught on, and it was the latest step, I think, and it's interesting because they only came out and admitted it after they were caught, right? It was, I forget, it was one of the benchmarking. I think it might have been Geekbench who did the original investigation.
I think so. Yes, I think it was like someone involved with them anyway.
And what was crazy was that the moment you switch the battery, it goes back up to having full clock speed, right? That was literally the extent of the issue. It was like the moment you switch the battery to a new one, it works completely without issue.
Yeah, which does support their claims that is what they're doing, that they are just slowing it down because of the battery. However, could this just be a bit of smartness and covering up their tracks from Apple?
Yeah, and I think it's if nothing else, it's a good indicator of why we should have had maybe not abandoned removable batteries so quickly. Maybe we should have kept those around just a bit longer.
I'm actually slightly surprised that rather than allow the phone to go back to full speed once they realise the battery is absolutely fine and brand new, I'm surprised they actually don't just cut out the phone and say you shouldn't have changed the battery. That's
they did that
with
they did that with Touch ID, right? Where if you didn't, and I think the battery is different because it's hard to tell whether or not the battery is genuine or not, because you might need a genuine battery replacement, right?
But then the people, if it's a genuine battery, it would have been changed by Apple. So at which point they probably put in something to say, like when it logs in and shows your phone can't be used now because you've just fucked it. Then like an Apple user has to put it, or Apple employee has to put in some kind of authorization code or something.
Yeah, that could be something they potentially do, but I don't know. Maybe it's more trouble than it's worth. For
Yeah,
Apple.
again, Apple have never shied away from figuring out a way to force people to use their products and services more.
I'll give you that. That is a fair point. Give me a second, I'm about to sneeze. I think we get. Yep. Hey. There we are. It only took like 30 seconds. Oh man, this is not the best audio experience. Just in case you're wondering, if you want a Snappy-Tech podcast that sounds as good as it looks, go back a couple of episodes. Every time I go to say something, I go to sneeze at the same time. I'm like, God damn it, body, just rein it in a bit. But I forgot what my point was about to be. But no, it's they did it with Touch ID, and that was more of a security issue more than a usability issue. Right, because you don't want fake Touch ID sensors because they become a real actual issue as opposed to just being like, but we're Apple and we do what we want.
Yeah, in
exactly,
that case, it's hackable, and then you get information, or more importantly, the payments
Yes.
that can then actually be accessed. Whereas a battery, it's not unheard of to have a security issue through a battery, but yeah, it's not exactly a usual attack
Vector
scenario. Yeah, that's the one.
Just a quick heads up. If you're listening to this podcast and you want to watch me and Paul, mostly me, struggle with trying to not sneeze, I highly suggest you watch this episode because I've spent just as Paul has been talking and he's now playing with his ball. If you want to watch me try to not sneeze and Paul enjoying his ball way too much, I highly suggest you watch this one at snpy.tech/podcast25 because I think it would be something you end up enjoying. Paul, I don't know what the hell you're doing. But my question is, I guess, should this have been something that Apple did? Like, should Apple have been more vocal about this when they first did it?
Apple should have done this.
No, come on, rein it in a bit, mate. Come on.
I think it's I think it's one of those situations where people should figure out that someone's going to find it out. Whether that's within months or like days, months, years.
Right.
And it's a kind of a situation where Apple should have owned this as a genuine thing. And said to people, like, okay, if you really don't want us to do this, then fine. You have this switch, or you can enable developer options. Have this switch. It's at your own risk. If it's unstable, then that's your business.
Right.
This is a genuine thing that could happen with any phones, but it's your business if you want to do that. And then do an Apple and brand something as absolutely amazing and say, look, your phone can now last stably for longer because we've added this new feature that slows down the processor to save the battery and so that it stops crashing.
Yeah.
It should have been one of those situations where they just use some Apple marketing about making anything sound amazing, no matter how crap it could come across to those people that know better.
Yeah.
And that would have saved them in the long run, because now people are looking at them kind of like we are now, that are they really telling us the truth now, or is this just a face-saving method?
I wonder what the Apple subreddit thinks of this, because Apple are. I think it's safe to say that Apple users on Reddit at least are probably very passionate, for lack of a better phrase. So I just want to see what they have to say about this. Oh God, no. So interestingly, they have a battery. They're like battery scientists and. Right. Okay. Hang on. I want to find when it was initially discovered. Give me 2 seconds. Top from the past week. Geekbench data. Here it is. It was Geekbench, by the way. Geekbench data to confirm suspicions posted here. Apple throttles CPU speed as battery degrades.
Was it one of the higher ups in Geekbench that found it?
I don't. I'm not sure. I think they just because they get all the information through benchmarks, right? So they probably looked at it and went, "Hey, this is weird. The less healthy a battery, the worse it performs." And then they just like switched out a couple of batteries on their own models to see what happened. That's what I expect happened, at least. And I think this goes a long way towards the right to repair situation, where in the US, Apple don't have to make the ability to, I'm not saying that Apple should make taking apart an iPhone easy. They should just make it allowed. I think that's the distinction that should be made. Something someone mentions is that in here is they had an iPhone 6 with a degraded battery, roughly 70% capacity, and they bought a smart battery case, right? For the ones Apple sells. That the battery degraded more, but because they had the case, it made more sense, right? However, because of this, it meant that their phone would use like half clock speed, even though it was in this case, and that it would be effectively useless. And I think that's a fair point. Like if you have a battery case, that is a.
So at that point, the battery case itself, that will still degrade, but that is easily replaceable for one, cheaply replaceable, and it won't degrade as fast because it's not right next to a hot heat sink or anything like that. It's not like packed within a very hot device. It will last a bunch longer, and it's still annoying to have that more degradation from the phone's battery. But it's I think it's one of those situations to say if there was a developer option or something that you could toggle on or off would be quite useful. Apple, get in touch.
Didn't even have to be a developer option; just had to be like by the way we do this. Someone said, and this is before it was made, before Apple admitted it. I'm just reading comments off the subreddit right now, the Apple subreddit. It's time for Apple to officially address this issue. This could become a major black eye due to their previous statements regarding planned obsolescence and putting the customer first. Either give users an option to prioritize performance over battery longevity, or make battery replacements cheaper, but staying silent certainly won't help anyone. What I will point out is that less so with the iPhone 7, 8, and 10 because they're now sealed because they're waterproof. But with the older ones, the battery replacement out of warranty cost like $80 and was literally like a 5-minute process of like undoing a couple of screws, popping open the screen and switching out batteries. Like $80 was just a ridiculous amount to charge for like the battery itself cost like $6.
Yeah, no, the screen replacement was fiddly. But the screen replacement could be done. But the battery replacement is very easy because they used to even have the tiny little screws on the bottom. So you just undid them, pulled the screen out, unplug one thing, switch the battery. I think it's basically as simple as that. I think you had to undo a bracket as well. But it was so simple. Most people could do it themselves within about 2 minutes. And yet they charged so much. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And of course, I'm sure whenever Apple do a repair, they probably try and be like, "Are you sure you don't want to just buy a new device?"
It is definitely bizarre, and I think most people will see this as a move to try and get people over to newer iPhones, which part of the reason people love iPhones is that you can have a 3-year-old device and it will still be upgraded to the latest greatest version of iOS. Unless it's iOS 11 and it isn't that great, especially if you're on an iPhone 10, it's a real mixed bag of software, just horribleness. But their argument was always, but you get to be on the latest iOS, and it seems like the latest iOS also includes now your device being throttled.
Yeah, and I don't know. The thing is, if it gets old enough, of course, it's still not latest version of iOS. However, like they're only doing this supposedly for the 6 and later. So what happened before that? Because this is an issue that must have been worse years before now, because batteries get better and better. I mean, they're not going leaps and bounds ahead, but they are getting better, and the technology controlling them is getting better.
I
know?
wonder how the life cycle of these batteries work. Like, are they still, so it's currently considered at like 500 cycles, gets you to about 80% battery health, and that is considered end of life, right? Because 500 cycles is give or take 2 years, right? You'll charge it roughly 500 times over the course of 2 years, as far as Apple is concerned. And
so with their batteries, you charge it a lot more.
Yeah, partially that, because the usable time and the batteries are so small, but I don't know. It just seems weird to me that the batteries like only last for 2 years. Like they aren't. It reeks of planned obsolescence to me, and that just doesn't sit well.
Yeah. The thing is, planned obsolescence has been a thing for years, or a rumored thing. Of course, no company will ever admit to it. But it's been
not even remotely.
Yeah. So it's been a thing for years, and it's something has very much come into the light more, I think, in the past couple of years, though. And yes, technology does have a lifespan. However, there is more and more people claiming that after a year, it is planned that the device will either be obsolete because of technological advances, obsolete from performance. So as soon as it's out of warranty, you're getting a new phone. It's just bringing to light that this is possibly a bit more than a bunch of people trying to stir the pot. It could be a bit more realistic than some people would like us to think.
What I will say is that Samsung were really proud of the S8 because, hang on. Thank you. My S7 Edge will be 2 years old in March. The battery health of it will be roughly 80%. Probably. I don't know. I haven't checked my battery health.
How do you check battery health, actually?
You can. I'm not sure how. Is the best way. Currently, there's an app called GSAM, which is the best battery app that I can think of. Wow, really talking in between sneezes here.
Oh yeah, Google thinks that's the best as well.
So, and the big. I'm really holding this together well, aren't I?
2 seconds while you sneeze.
The big thing with the S9 was that they said that it would now, after 2 years, last. So the big thing with the S8, the new one, the S8.
Yeah.
The big thing with that is they said they worked really hard on the battery technology, and after 2 years, instead of being at 80% health, which mine now is, it'd be closer to 95% health, which makes me wonder why Apple couldn't do something similar. Because 95% health after 2 years would be greatly appreciated if you're an Apple user, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think Samsungs just seem to be one of those phones where people pass them down so much anyway. So if people are going to do that regardless, you might as well make their experience a bit better. And especially on these new phones where Bixby is involved and you've got things like that they want to get more people into.
Right.
I mean, when I just left for a second there, I thought of an interesting phone to check my battery health on.
Right.
Because of course.
Oh, your Huawei.
One of the
obviously.
Yeah. Oh, my Nexus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, one of my biggest problems for the last 6+ months of the phone was the battery life. Because of that major issue, it is. So it'd be interesting to actually check the battery health right now.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was around 60%, purely because of how big
less,
issues
I'd say. Okay, let's put some bets in. You think 60%?
Yeah, I reckon around 60.
Do I think? I actually think it's probably about 50, 55.
What I will say is it won't show you straight away. You have to plug it into charge. You have to.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm trying to do it right now.
Cool. And then we can come back to it at the end of the show.
Yeah.
So this, if it actually works out like that, would be crazy to me. Because the fact that Samsung decided to go from, 80% to 95%, which is a massive jump. So 95% after 2 years, to me reads as 90% after 3 years and 80% after 4 years, right? So because over time it degrades faster and faster. So I wouldn't be
powering off.
Hey, that sounds like fun. So
that sounds like a good judgment of the battery.
Actually, what I will say is my OnePlus One, which I now have again. Hey, look, it's Paul in the reflection. I have my OnePlus One back purely because I decided that I wanted the fully functioning screen and Android Oreo. So I have my OnePlus One, which I will now use as my main device, which is why this phone is unplugged, because I'm using USB tethering. But my SIM card's now in this phone, which really needs cleaning. It's covered in fingerprints. But the battery in the OnePlus One seems better than the battery in my S7 Edge. And this phone is like 3 years old, 3.5 years old, because I got it when it was more or less first released.
Yeah, but your S7 Edge isn't in the best of conditions, is it?
No, it's been through the wars, if nothing else. And actually, now that I think about it, I replaced the battery in this like 6 months ago. So, yeah,
they've both been through the waters actually, because they've both been dropped and smashed.
Oh yeah, the video of this being shattered is on the Snappy-Tech YouTube channel. If you look up our interview with Prison Architect, you can see the bit where I ruined that phone. I found that so hilarious. It was really funny. But yeah, no, I love the OnePlus One. I love what it represents, because OnePlus don't quite represent the same values anymore. So yeah, I just really enjoy that phone, and the fact that replacing the battery is as good enough as to regain full CPU speed is a bit iffy. It just sounds a bit iffy. It should at least be announced or an option, because This thing is 3 years old. I'm not sure what battery health is, but it's quite good for a 3-year-old device. So if I turned around tomorrow and this was being slowed down, I know I'd be pissed. But yeah, this thing running Android Oreo is an absolute dream. It's actually smoother than my S7 Edge, I feel. Like, because it's running stock Android. Everything just feels so much slicker on here.
Yeah. I can't say the same about my my Nexus. I wish I had a good use for it, but I don't, frankly. But no, I'm glad though the 95% because it's a drop that like you wouldn't usually notice it a bit because it's so slow and gradual. You probably wouldn't notice it too much, but you definitely would once you got a new phone. I think suddenly you'd have loads more battery life. But I think a 5% drop over 2 years, that is one. Pretty respectable that they've done that rather than the planned obsolescence route. But that is something that I think to get any more, you're probably actually going to be looking ahead in technology a bit.
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to find much better than that.
It's a very good little jump. So at this point, this was on 40% when I turned it on. I'm pretty sure, like 30-40%. It turned off. And now, because I've not got it into a free amp charger, it's taking a while before it's got enough battery to turn back on.
So I just want to see how much the cost of a battery replacement from Samsung is. Samsung battery replacement. Let's see here. Oh, come on, service center, blah blah blah. Can you give me like a? So according to Samsung customer service, it's $73. What I will, that's for the S7 Edge. I assume it costs the same for the S8 now because that was about that's before the S8 came out. What I will say is the replacement process on the S8 or S7 is actually a lot more complicated. Because these are full on just glued down, and because the front and back are made of glass, they're really hard to, take apart. Whereas if you try to get a replacement from Apple for the new iPhone 10, I'm pretty sure it is. Let me take a look here. So it seems to be covered under. Here it is, battery service, $80 for all iPhones. So you know what? Actually, for the iPhone 10, that's a way more understandable price. But still, for like the older iPhones and definitely the like the SE, for example, $80 is a large amount of money. Luckily, if your phone is in warranty, it's free, but, still not cheap.
Did it install? Sorry, I'm speaking to myself at this point.
So I think we should use this as an opportunity to transition into our next topic, and I've got a topic that we probably won't talk about for long, but that I think will be quite funny. I want to hear what your opinion on this is. There's been a new update to the Twitter abuse policy. Twitter started enforcing new abuse policies on Monday, suspending accounts that violated the terms. Most importantly, however, as part of the new terms, it said that the policies do not apply to government accounts, which means that even though Donald Trump technically violated Twitter's abuse policies in the past, he is exempt from the new rules, and therefore Donald Trump can do whatever the hell he wants.
One, that sounds hilarious because he can carry on with the normal shit that he does that
Right?
does
Isn't
slightly
that
scare
great?
me, but at the same point, it is so stupid it makes me laugh, and it's just making me hope that eventually they will impeach him. Impeach the right word? Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
impeach.
so, I'll sort that out in a second. Yeah. Um, However, at the same point, it does kind of seem like a bit of a cop out from Twitter because it could just be them. I don't know, it's being scared of their. I don't know. It's good for making sure there isn't any censorship of the truth or whatever. But at the same point, it could lead to alternative opinions or
Alternative
um,
facts.
yes, that's the one.
I just want to say the exact line is this policy does not apply to military or government entities, and we will consider exceptions for groups that are currently engaging in or have engaged in peaceful resolution. Which just sounds. Now, here's the deal. I understand why Donald Trump should be able to tweet whatever he wants because, he's the president of the United States, and that means you can't. You shouldn't be censoring that, right? Because he is effectively the leader of a free world. However, when you're tweeting things that are categorically false, and that are like hilariously misleading,
And very provocative and scaremongering.
yes, definitely. He's he's not a good guy, to put it nicely.
Yeah, it's why did they have to vote him in?
I don't know. Oh, actually, I want to take a moment to say a big shout out to wait, who I was just thinking about it. I was like, oh, I need to mention this person real quick. I've forgotten who the person I needed to mention was. Wait, who was it? A big shout out to. Nope, it'll come back to me in a minute, but I've just forgotten. I needed to thank someone for something, and I've just completely blanked on it. You know what? Whilst I'm trying to remember who it was, I also want to say a quick thank you to Pocket Casts because I've been using their podcast app a lot, and the web version, it turns out, has a beta. So there's a beta version of a web app. If you go to playbeta.pocketcasts.com, I think, or is it? Yeah, playbeta.pocketcast.com. You get the beta version of their app. It's really good. It's like the normal one, but it's updated. So it's got like a dark theme. It keeps everything in sync. Has machine learning to tell you what it thinks you should listen to next, which is a little bit terrifying. But it's good. It's good. I highly suggest you go give that a look. I completely forgotten who I wanted to give a shout out to for being a really great person this week.
Me.
I mean, you too, I guess. But it was like something I completely blanked on it because I was just thinking, oh, I should mention them, and then I forgot. Damn. I think I must have seen them like in my Twitter feed or something, and I was like, oh, I need to mention them. I can't remember though. Nope, nothing at all. Okay, that's fine. That's all fine. Oh, you know what I don't think we mentioned? No, we wouldn't have because it happened 5 days ago. So I've talked about my love of road on this podcast quite a lot and in our YouTube videos. So earlier this week, I tweeted Road saying, I don't know whether I should love or dread the fact that even in unrelated personal conversations, I talk about how much I just want @Road Mikes to love me back. Believe it or not, @Road Mikes replied with, we love you, heart emoji, And I was like, oh my God, this is so great. I'm loved by Rode mics. And I just remembered the thing I wanted to mention.
Wow.
But yeah, so Rode mics love me. It's great because I love Rode mics. We're all one big happy family. I think I wanted to mention, which I guess is a bit of exclusive Snappy-Tech news, is that I've spoken with the people who make Glance Clock, which is like a smart clock that I funded on Kickstarter like a year and a half ago. I spoke to them last week or this week, and I said, hey guys, listen, I'd really love to get my hands on one of these clocks as soon as possible. They're being sent out to other people. I'd love to do a review on them. What can we make something happen here? And they said, we'd love to send it to you. We actually read through because they got everyone to do a survey of like what phone they use, where they want it shipped to and stuff like that. And they were like, we loved your survey response. The only issue we saw is that because you use an Android device, not all of the features are available on the Android app just yet. That's still in development. And I was like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll find a iOS device to do the full review with. If you just send out the clock, I'll make it happen. Also, PS, can you send it to Georgia, not to England? And they were real champs about it. They said yes. They sent it 2 days ago. They actually sent it before it was with the rest of they had plans to send a whole batch of them at the same time because they distribute them in batches. And they said since you're going to be doing a review on it, we will send it to you ASAP. And if you can't read it, but if you could, it would say that it's currently in Singapore and it's on its way here. And I'm really excited for that. It's expected to get here on the 28th here in Borjomi. I am so hyped for this clock. It is it's not even a big deal. It's just a clock that shows you like your appointments and stuff. Because I've been waiting for it for a year and a half, and the retail price is like $250 of this damn thing. I am so hyped, and I'm going to do a review on it when it finally arrives, and it will be great. Tell me, Paul, have you ever spent £250 on a clock? How much did you spend?
£180 on a smart watch.
I was going to say, how much did you spend on your watch? £180?
Yeah, and it went down on like lightning deal a week later or something like.
Yeah.
It went down by £30. I actually missed the lightning deal anyway. By the time I'd seen it, it went down, or like it had already all been sold out. But
yeah,
at the same point, I was very pissed. But no, I'm never going to spend $250 or £250 or whatever it is on a watch. Sorry, on a clock. I will spend that on a watch, but that is different. That is a piece of jewelry.
What I will say is
meant to be expensive.
I got it at half price because I was kickstarting it. So I actually only paid $119. So in my defense,
you are still an absolute 24 karat gold epic moron.
In my defense, I spent more on 3D printers, but I still haven't gotten yet. But yeah,
no, that doesn't help your case at all. I mean, as a 3D printer, you expect to spend more on because that's kind of the thing, that they are expensive. Clocks, this is you can get a clock for a tenner.
This is a 3D printer that like you put your phone in, so it's not even like the 3D printer is like doing anything. It's using your phone as the bed.
Yeah, but it's still a 3D printer. It's quite a technologically advanced or smart piece of kit. You have spent £120 on.
It's basically a clock with it's a clock with like an OLED display. Like it's not just
because
it doesn't just show the
so
time.
New and it's so advanced to put an OLED display
behind the clock,
a £10 piece of kit.
I'm just saying, it's also a pretty decent looking clock. You know, I'm going to pull this up for the stream. Screw it.
I'm just saying, you're still a moron.
I'm going to prove you wrong.
The stream will agree with me.
If you go to glanceclock.com, you'll see it.
No.
I'm showing the stream right now. It's got a very Apple vibe to it. I will say that. Like, it looks like something Apple would make.
Exactly. I mean, they charge. They would never charge a half price for it. But it sounds like something Apple would do, charge $250 or more for a clock. You have a clock on your phone.
I do, but
you have a smartwatch. You can buy a smartwatch for cheaper than $250, and that will do that and a lot more. And it will always be on your wrist. You don't have to go into a specific room to see the information.
But Paul, I just want this company to love me.
No, you want this company love you for the money that you've spent on them. I would far prefer you to spend that kind of money on Honor or Huawei, people that make good value products that are good.
I don't know. Well, we'll have to see how the review goes. I feel like I feel very similarly to the way I felt about when I first got my Amazon Echo, in the sense that, or my Chromebook. Actually, I think Chromebook is a better example of this, where I bought the Chromebook and I expected it to be okay, but not great. And I feel like this will be another one of those situations where I'm getting it, expecting it to, to work, and it integrates with quite a few things. So like Uber, it'll like make a little look when you get an Uber. When you get a phone call, it'll tell you like who's calling. It syncs up.
If you're in the right room to see it.
Well, if it's like, if I have it like in my office, I'll see it all the time, right? I know exactly where I'm putting it.
You have a slanted roof when you're at home.
Yes, but I mean here. Like I know where I'm putting it right here. And the plan for home in England is to put it in the kitchen.
Okay. And also there, you're going to let an entire office be able to see who is calling you.
I mean, it would be in
also
English.
Realize that
they wouldn't
no
really.
One calls
they'd
you.
have no idea who it is, right? Because it'd be in English anyway.
Oh, true. Except for that American person.
Yeah, except for the American who's sitting and facing me, so she'd have to like physically look behind her to see the clock. So whatever, and then it works as a clock, which is always useful. But
you could do that for £10. Probably like 10p for sure me.
It links in with like Amazon Alexa or Google Home, Facebook Messenger. You get like Facebook messages come up on your clock. You know what? It's just a fun piece of tech. Damn it, Paul! Like, don't ruin this for me. It's just a fun piece.
Not for $250. No,
that's not what I paid for it though. I paid 120. Well, no,
if you let me continue, I was about to say your decision is not as bad as anyone that will buy it once it's at full price. But at the same point, you could even get a cheap smartwatch for about £20 that will do most of this stuff. Not as well, okay, but
what I will say is that it is available to pre-order through their website, and if you pre-order it, it's 170. So just putting it out there.
Viewers of Snappy-Tech Podcast,
go do it. Of course, go right now.
We are not always very informative or smart. However, this is one time we are going to inform you with some genuine buyer's advice. Just don't be a buyer in this case.
Do it. Go be a buyer. It has like
if you want to piss someone off,
it has a speaker in it and everything. Like it can like proper like come on. For
that kind of money, you can buy a normal clock and a Bose speaker, which is 10 times better, and an Alexa.
I don't know. I think it'll be. If nothing else, it's a fun it'll be a fun toy, which. You know what?
A fun thing to drop test.
No. Like it looks elegant and sleek, and it has like this fabric. I don't know. It just looks.
I can't argue that. I'm sure you will get use out of it,
right?
But I just do like the price though. That is just like you're gonna get it. You are gonna get use out of it, and I'm sure you will find a bunch of geeky ways to use it. However, it still costs you £120 or $100 whatever pound, either way, and it will still cost other people $250.
Actually, I've looked on the website, and the final price is actually $200. So I think the 120 might have been like 100 for the thing and then 20 for the shipping or something. That might have been it. But yeah.
Still.
Just saying, I am. You know what? Like 2 weeks from now, when we have a Snappy-Tech podcast, I'm gonna have like a bunch of use cases for this clock. I'm gonna make sure that I find a bunch of ways I use it just to annoy you. Just saying, because it looks genuinely cool, and it comes in some really great colors. And if you pre-order it right now, you won't even get it for a year because there's such like a backlog of everyone who funded it on Kickstarter. Just saying.
You know what they call those people?
Kickstarter users.
Rich morons.
Not necessarily.
Oh yes, they do. Anyone with a bit of sense does.
It's a bit rude. But I don't know. It's I saw it in like the you know, it's not the kind of thing that I see myself using seriously for a lot of time. In the same way I don't use my Echo seriously outside of like or my Google Home for like outside of getting my like daily news from it. But like, you know, sometimes I do something wacky with it and I find that really entertaining, or I have the setup where if I tell it something, it replies in a certain way. And I like that. And I like the idea of being able to like, you know, turn to my Google Home or my Google Assistant on my phone and be like, hey, show me this, and it'll like come up on my clock. And I don't know, I think it would be a nice use case. We'll have to see. It'll be interesting. Stay tuned for a review coming in probably about a month, because I'm not getting it until the end of next week, and then I need to use it properly and write a review. I have a lot of videos that need making that haven't been made yet. Oh, and on that subject, there's a video that I filmed in front of a green screen this week. You probably saw the pictures of me messing around with a green screen. I filmed a video with the intention being that it looks like I'm still in the UK. So I hadn't cut my hair or shaved in a long while. I look way cleaner than I usually do, or I have for the last few weeks, because I wanted to look a bit frazzled for the video I've been filming. So I look frazzled in front of a green screen. I did the whole deal where I went into Adobe Premiere Pro and did the whole green screen magic, and it looks like I'm genuinely at home. So that's great, and I think that'll be a fun video that like starts off with me at home and then me in Georgia and then me at home again, but like the green screen starts glitching and then drops out and I'm like, oh, I should tell you something kind of deal.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Well, you know, unless you're not listening an hour into the podcast, I feel like that's something you deserve to know if you're listening this far in.
Still though, I have my most hated or most expensive company has changed.
Really?
Or most overpriced company has changed.
I don't know. I feel
after our previous conversation, it has. For sure.
Are you sure? Like, I wonder how much the raw parts of this device cost. Because I would be surprised if, like, because they've got like a breakdown on their Twitter, I think it is. They've got like a, you know, the explosion charts things. I can't remember what they're called. Where they like show off each individual part in there. This thing has like.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, let me find it. Yeah, it's their pinned tweet. So it has a proper clock, obviously, with a fabric face, an RGB matrix, a text matrix, a bunch of custom PCBs, a clock drive, some batteries, the back cover, and then the sound chamber with the speaker and the microphone and all that jazz. I wonder what making one of these costs. And it's also worth mentioning they're a new company, right? They didn't have any funding before this device, so this is, you know, funding the R&D for this as well. It's not like it was Apple where they just kind of threw money at it, and if it didn't make money, then whatever. This had to make up the money they spent developing it, right?
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see. They're working on the glance clock too. We'll see what that looks like as well. I don't know. I quite like it. I spoke to the CEO, Anton, and he's really nice. I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited. Maybe $120 is a bit too much, and maybe $200 is a lot too much. But you know what? It looks cool. It's a bit of fun for me as far as I'm concerned, and we'll see. Like, $200 for a clock isn't even that much. Like, you find people spending like ridiculous amounts on wall clocks, which again is like one of those, because it's a home furniture piece. You know, I've just typed wall clock into eBay and it's thrown up, like the first one it threw up is $500. So just saying. This one doesn't even do anything useful apart from spin around with pictures of Mickey Mouse on it. Like, just
those people are even more idiots. But
just gonna like look at this. Like, don't get me, like, what? It's $506. It's $510 for this damn thing. Like, why would you? Why? And then, like, let's see here, what else we have. But yeah, it's like $100 for generic like musical wall clocks, and those, you know, spin around a bit. That's about it. So for a clock that does something that isn't just to tell time, it is actually, you know, $100 is considered average. You know, it's $75 for like a really cheap cuckoo clock, but it's literally just like a cheap clock with like a tiny thing on the top. So I don't know. I feel like the price isn't that outrageous. Like it costs more than like a really nice wall clock. I'll give you that much. And yes, you can buy one for like £10, but it won't really. You know, it doesn't really fulfill the same purpose. Like, this isn't what that's designed for. This isn't for it. If you're buying this, you're not in the decision of, oh, do I get the £10 one or do I get this? Right? You're looking for something that does a bit more than just tell the time. I feel, at least. And it's also got a bunch of like custom PCB smarts in there as well.
So I was just playing around with that GSAM app to check. I think you need to either have root or thingy to check the.
So for the battery health, if I recall correctly, you have to basically drain it and then charge it all the way up.
Okay, yeah, it's basically drained. But...
So if you like plug it in and leave it to charge, if I recall correctly,
that takes an H charge on, unless I put it into actually even then.
If I quickly download it onto my Samsung, when I look at it, I'll know. Give me 2 seconds. GSAM battery monitor.
This is going to be a really quiet and boring bit in the podcast.
It is, yeah. I'm sorry. Give me 2 seconds. La la la.
This is why you should have recorded it and then allowed for the just to edit it out after. You could have. Just
I could have, or if you're listening to this for Pocket Cast, it has a skip silence mode, so you can skip through the silence and the bits.
Because we're talking now, there is no silence.
Exactly, because you know we're great. It might not be GSAM. I may have been wrong.
I did do another like Apple II, but I think there was another one. Someone claimed GSAM do it, but there's a more stats thing. But
the battery the app I was thinking of was ACU battery, ACCU.
Oh yeah,
battery.
I did get that as well.
That's one that has the health by fully charging it up. My bad.
Okay. Actually, let me just quickly plug this in on a good charger.
Here you go for it. So this is ACU battery. I'm just scrolling through it real quick. I feel myself dying. There's a tab called health, and there's a tab called health, and that basically covers it all, including estimated capacity and estimated battery health. But yeah, I think we'll talk about one more topic and then call it a show once Paul's back. So Paul, I reckon we talk about one more topic and call it a show before I die sneezing.
So I do have a topic.
You do?
As well. Yes.
Well then, go for it.
Okay, so it's a short topic. How long have we actually been going for? Because I don't know.
Almost exactly an hour.
Okay, so it's a quite short topic, but I thought it was a little interesting one to finish on. The headline, it's a story on The Verge. Smart use for Snap's open AR platform is to preview real-sized menu items.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
yep,
basically, this week they launched something called Lens Studio.
They did, because I think I mentioned it. They actually released it last week, and I mentioned it in passing with Benjamin Abawaji. Because I used it to get the Snappy-Tech logo on Snapchat.
In the past week or whatever.
Yeah. Because I used it to get the Snappy-Tech logo in Snapchat, and that was fun.
Oh, yeah. I remember now. So, for people that don't realise, now you can get your own lenses into their augmented reality thing. And part of the thing that you can do with that, or I think you need to do with that, you get a little snap code that you need to scan, and then you get that put into your library for, I think it's for like a year or something.
You can decide, like... So in the case, like when you're doing distribution, at least you can decide. You can say they snap it and they get it for an hour, or So when you went for if you go onto the Spectacles website, they had a snap code for you to try them on, and that lasts for I think 2 hours. So you can decide as the vendor how long you want them to have access to it for.
Okay, and so in this particular use, people, or there was someone that was saying about. You could use this as a view before you buy it, kind of thing. So you would have snap codes next to the menu items, and you'd scan them, and then you could actually view it in real size on your screen, effectively, and you could actually see how the food would look. And of course, we know it's food or pictures of food on a menu is notorious for looking bad. And of course, they can't fit a proper picture of food on every menu. So this actually allows us to see the food we're ordering before we've ordered it.
Yeah.
Having said that, I mean, to put a snap code next to every thing could be a slight issue, but that's a workaroundable issue.
I think the better way to do it would be to be able to have like a Snapchat version of the menu, where like if you scanned one snap code and then you could scroll through menu items.
Yeah, a snap library kind of thing. And of course, there are ways around this. It's an early idea that someone's came up with, and in this case, I'll actually send you the article over.
Please do.
So that's the article I'm looking at the moment. They've actually got a burger. Oh, say the media ain't playing. But so you could actually see a burger on a plate in front of you. And in someone's case, they used it to have it in front of their iMac.
Hang on. Let me play this to. There you are. Let me just show this to the people. Oh, it's got sound. There you are. So they can see this right now. Carry on.
Yeah, and I of course, this is an idea that could be matured for definite. It is an idea that surely will have teething problems, especially at the newness. However, it's a interesting use for this. I mean, it is not something that anyone would automatically think of when you say Snapchat now allows you to put in your own lenses into the system. But I am excited if this are the kind of ideas people are thinking of that you could bring out with this system, then carry on, please.
Yeah, it's definitely it's one of those things where the iPhone wasn't a big deal until they released the App Store and people could do things that Apple would never have thought of, right? I think now that the AR kit, the AR tech behind Snapchat is open and anyone can do anything, it means that we'll see things that Snapchat would never have thought of doing.
Yeah,
And
that's
this
the
is one of
thing.
those things. And I hope that I really hope this fuels people to create. You know, for me doing the Snappy-Tech logo was a bit of fun, as far as I'm concerned. But I feel like there are actual genuine uses people will think of for this, and even if, like educate from an educational point of view, I think being able to put history like right in front of someone in the real world would be really useful.
Yeah, I think that's the thing when you make the ability to make add-ons or apps, however you want to call it, for whatever system. That is a great step forward for a lot of platforms because no matter how big the company is, they can't do it all. When a company like Apple, Amazon, Google, whatever, make a system, yeah, they'll make a bunch of things for it, but they are very much tied by, are they going to make enough money to make it worth it? Or make enough money at all? Is it going to actually? Is it going to be any good? Do we care if it's any good? Whereas when you give like coders the opportunity to just make it, even if it's just for themselves, if they find a use case, they're gonna then going to make it, and it means you get all of these weird and wonderful app ideas that really kick off just because no one thought of it before, because no one realized it was something that could come in useful, but it just magically does.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful time or a wonderful story to end for Christmas.
Yes, and hopefully someone will come up with like a Christmas tree one. I'm sure Snapchat will do that. What I will say is, as far as I'm aware, it is actually snowing outside right now. So although we're 2 hours away from actual Christmas Day, it is expected to be snowing all day tomorrow. So we are getting a proper snow-filled Christmas over here, which is great.
There was the possibility of actually having snow today. If like a couple of weeks ago, they did wonder whether we'd get snow today. They weren't sure though. But I can tell you, unless something drastic happens, we are not getting a white Christmas here because it is currently 10 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So we're not even going to get a frosty Christmas. So, yeah.
It'll be a hot, sticky Christmas that you kind of wish you weren't a part of. Oh, man. On that note, I think that's where we should... unless you want to talk about something else. I don't know. Like I have one topic about how Apple Maps is so bad, and they did a deep dive into what makes Google Maps so much better.
I need to.
But I feel like I think like we made enough fun of Apple. Oh, actually, what I do want to discuss really, really quickly though, is Bitcoin.
Oh, damn
it. Yes.
No, bad.
Yes, good. So a Bitcoin is currently worth. I want to find out what it trades on Coinbase for right now. So on Coinbase in the last week, it has dropped by 27%. It has dropped by price by about £4,000 per Bitcoin. This has been due to the fact that Bitcoin Cash hasn't exactly had the best of weeks. It became available on Coinbase. However, there were leaked talks of insider trading. Interestingly, because of this whole sitch, Bitcoin Cash has gone up by about 50% in the last week before it was released on Coinbase. It then went up by 100%, and then it dropped by about 50 from there. So it's averaged out to plus 50%, but it went through one hell of a peak and valley. In the process, Bitcoin has just been dropping. It's dropped about 30%. People are using this as like the death knell of Bitcoin. They're like, Bitcoin is finally officially dead. However, although the drop of 30%, is the single biggest drop by percentage. Sorry, by amount, it's not the biggest by percent. In fact, looking back at just October this year, it dropped by about what does this work out to? about 15%. That was just, a few months ago. And Bitcoin
We spoke about it a 1.20% drop.
Yeah, so Bitcoin has this habit of like dropping and then spiking back up again. So, and it's actually already doing that because it had dropped to about 30%. And if you like look at the graph, like for the last month, for example, you can see where it's starting to pick back up again, ever so slightly.
Well, the thing is, it hit, I think it was like 11K, then it went back down to about 8,500. That's when we spoke about it. And people, I think the person that was on the show actually even said about they reckon it will just keep hitting its peak at around 11-ish, 12-ish, around there, and then drop back.
It peaked at 14 and a half.
Yeah. Actually, it peaked at slightly more. I'm pretty sure it peaked at a bit more than that. I was reading something that said about 15.
It was 18 or like $19,000, I think. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, okay, you're looking at pounds, are you?
Yes, I'm looking at it in pounds.
I'm looking at dollars.
No. So yeah, it peaked at like $1,900. It's because my account's in pounds. The Bitcoin I own is in, my Coinbase account is in GBP. Oh, by the way, I own some Bitcoin. I have, just as a heads up, just to be transparent, I'm invested in it. If you go buy Bitcoin, I'd appreciate it because the value would go up a bit. But I definitely think it's the kind of thing where, I don't know, we'll see. I expect it to bounce back come, February next year. I expect it to have been where it is at right now, at least. As always, though, it is a super volatile currency. And so if you do invest, don't invest anything that's like a life-changing amount of money. Put in an amount you're able to lose. But yeah, the fact that Bitcoin has dropped 27% in the last week is not reassuring for a lot of people. However, I think we'll see it bounce back. We have no way of knowing until the future, obviously. I've only put in enough money so that if it was to completely die, right, if it was to become a total net worth of zero, I'd be no worse off than I am now, right? Like I can afford to lose that amount of money. Like, don't get me wrong, it would suck, but it wouldn't it wouldn't have long-term financial implications, right?
Yeah, but I think like it has dropped before, and it will drop again. But frankly, it's already went up to it's currently at $13,600 to one Bitcoin.
Yep.
Which it still is raising. It will recover. It will get back to a new high, surely. And anyone that thought the last 20% drop was the death of Bitcoin, or the sign of the death of Bitcoin, and then cashed out for that reason, that they've been proved that that's wrong, and it could just carry on with that. It may show us this is where it does have a quicker, it doesn't get its chance to go back up between each drop, but we'll see. Weeks will show.
And I think it's also worth noting that, at least in part, that the people who are dropping this are the people who are more, what's what I'm looking for, like skeptical about it, right? The people who, if you go on like the Bitcoin subreddit, for example, a lot of them are pointing out that, and I think they want it to succeed more than most, right? Obviously. But they're the people who are like, oh, we've been through this before. It happens all the time. Just hold it until it, starts going back up again. And I think that's fair. I think it's the people who are scared, right, or dropped it as soon as they saw it start to go down. Whereas I can imagine once everyone who was terrified about it dropping, it's now going back up again, because the people who really believe in Bitcoin are sticking around. I think that will be the point it starts dying. The point when people who really believe in the ability of Bitcoin to maintain value starts dropping, right?
Yeah, I think between that and the people that have genuinely invested money into Bitcoin, which I think are one in the same kind of thing. It once they see or like start to think, okay, I think this is time to cash out. Once those people start thinking cash out time, that is when it's going to drop and fail. However, it's going to need a few more drastic drops to do that. I think if it does any more than 35%, I think there's going to be a lot of skepticism in it.
Yeah, it is slowly picking up, but I think it will be one of those things where we'll see.
Yeah,
Interestingly, there was a graph I showed my dad of Google interest in Bitcoin versus the value of Bitcoin, and they map almost flawlessly. Like it is, they are crazy close to each other. Where like Google interest goes up, the value of a Bitcoin goes up, and like almost perfectly.
Actually, one thing I do want to say though is the problem is like with people suddenly panicking and cashing out after a drop, most people aren't going to do that. They're gonna wait for it to recover at least a little bit so they can get just that bit more out. At which point, once it's recovering, they're probably regaining their whatchamacallit, they've got reassurance that it's not completely dead again. So it starts going up, and until the next time it drops. At which point they're like, okay, we know it's going to recover a bit. Let's wait till then to cash out again. At which point they suddenly have the faith in the thing again. So it is. I mean, as I say, it's going to take a while for people to realize that maybe it's not going to last forever. But I certainly think that it can go a lot higher than it currently is. When I say a lot, I don't necessarily mean like 10 times or something, but a few more.
And I think we'll
quite easily go.
I think it's very much an adoption situation, right? If countries start adopting it a lot more, I think we'll see I think we'll see it go up. But I think that's what it's down to at this point. We'll see.
Yeah, certainly. You had to go and ruin my nice, happy ending for Christmas.
Yes, I
with
did.
The horribleness of Bitcoin. And we've spoken about it so much. I can't be arsed with it anymore.
I'm sorry. I had to. I felt like we had to talk Bitcoin. It's such a big deal right now. That like even like people I know who don't usually talk about technology are talking about Bitcoin.
And they probably
you know, more and more people are taking an interest in it. So I felt like it was worth talking about. However, this is
down to us to make sure the ignorance didn't continue.
Yes, exactly. However, I will now let you go because I know I am an hour and a half away from Christmas. You're roughly 5.5 hours away from Christmas. So I'll let you disappear. So Paul, where is the best place for people to find you?
So if people for some reason want to listen to me talk, to contact me and be more invested in my life, because of course I'm wonderful, then you should go to snappy.tech /Paul. It's been so long since I've said that I'm really confused. That was right. snappy.tech /Paul. And then there's a button on there you can press, and it takes you straight to my Twitter where I am active. So if you want to speak to me, then feel free. And yeah, that's all cool.
You can also go to snpy.tech /podcast for the audio version of a show, or /iTunes if you're on an Apple device. You can go to /live to join us live. We won't be live next week as we will have a best bits, which will go live roughly around 8 p.m. British time. So
2 weeks not live. What is this shit?
I know, crazy, right? So make sure you keep an eye out on that. The best bits, I've almost finished editing it. I think it's a really good couple of hours worth of listening.
I might actually watch it.
There were some genuinely hilarious moments over the last 24 episodes. So I highly suggest you give it a listen. I'm going to go before I go. I can sense another like sneezing fit about to appear. So I'm going to go now. Thank you so much for joining us for what was a fantastic year of the Snappy-Tech Podcast. After 25
Panda,
episodes.
did you enjoy it?
I don't think he did.
He said yeah.
25
Though
episodes.
he did make him hang himself, so.
Yeah, it's a bit much. However, 25 episodes, 26 as of next year, which would be 6 months worth of a Snappy-Tech Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next year. That is crazy. Bye.